They gave us all of these, and it was a gift from them. It's incredible. That story is amazing. There are certain passages in that I'm just feeding on and eating and eating and eating. And please take that as a gift and just, if you get a chance, dive into it. Just see what God speaks to you through it. But also, not only because you're leaders, but our heart to build up and raise up leaders in the marketplace. And that's why you're here today. And I'm going to get to some more of that and explain that a little more. But I want to share a few other things, and I'm going to get to kind of the vision and the mission. You'll see you received this card. It's in your book. We are going to get to this later, because the goal of today is first to encourage and to inspire you, one, to acknowledge you and call out of you who you are. When I say you're business leaders and you've been called to the marketplace, that's not an accident. That's intentional, that's purposeful. Maybe at times you wonder, maybe you feel like you're not doing so great at it. Maybe you feel like you're crushing it, but you're like, I don't understand the point, the purpose. The reality is God has highlighted you and God has called you to be in the marketplace for a reason. Whether you're a high-level manager or a high-level leader or an entrepreneur or an owner, you're in the marketplace for a reason. And there's been times throughout my own walk and my walk with Jesus and being a business owner and being bivocational where there's been all these different tensions and challenges and struggles at different times. And even at times where I've wondered, am I even in the right place? Am I doing this right? You know, many of us, especially if you're a business leader, some of you get the training of coming up in something where there's good training and there's corporate world and big things in place where you can get certain training. Most of us, it feels like on-the-job failing instead of on-the-job training, right? I can't tell you how many times where it's just, my whole career has felt like on-the-job failing. But because of some specific people that have spoken in my life, there was a point where it's like, okay, I'm called to this. I am called to this. And there's been times where people have given words to us about handling and stewarding finances beyond my imagination, where I've just been like, I just keep messing it up. How could that be true? You see, but God's called you, and so the goal of today is to inspire and encourage you, but also today is about planting a seed. It's not about a harvest. There's a seed being planted that we want you guys to grab a hold of today and see that we've called you and invited you here. We didn't open up to everybody in the community. We opened it up to you because you're part of this church. You're a leader in this church, and this is one of the 5 areas of influences that we feel this church is called to. And you're here because our request to you and why you got this card is so that we can learn more from you. So we're going to have some time of table discussion and that sort of thing, and we want to learn from you. We want to hear from you. Because here's the thing, my biggest frustration all throughout my career is God, when I met him, there's things that he put in my heart, and I was like, where do I turn to get answers for this? And it's been a struggle and a strain and even a frustration of mine personally along the way over the last I've been walking with God for 15 years now, and just looking for things. Where can I turn? I can turn to the Bible, I can turn to Scripture, but the church doesn't have a lot of things to help business leaders. There's not a lot of stuff. There's people that are come to church on Sunday, and they're in the marketplace throughout the week, and it's like, I want to walk out my faith, but what does that look like? And so you've been invited, you get to be a part of this to share what is missing. You're going to have that opportunity to have some roundtable discussion. But what's missing? What is the church not providing for entrepreneurs, for managers, for business leaders? What are we missing? For me, it's all around finances. It's been all around training and hiring and all these different things. There's a lot of great things out there, and I had to go to those things, and God opened incredible doors, and I got to meet people, but there's not a lot. There are some. I know Kristen and Matt, they tend to go to this really cool conference every year that I know others are invited to. I think I've gotten an invite too, and I've just never been able to go. There are some things, but sometimes they're hard to get to. So how do we build it here in the local church? How do we build and raise up and disciple people? And there's some really cool things we're working on, but today we're going to get a chance to hear from you. So that's why you're here. Why am I up here talking to you? Because God's called me to it. See, here's the thing is I'm going to read a lot of this because God had me spend a lot of time getting it really focused. You see, I started my first business when I was 15 years old, selling sunglasses at street fairs. I got a fake ID when I was 15 years old, not because I needed alcohol, but because I was traveling and I needed to be able to get a hotel room. I didn't need it for the other stuff. I was already enjoying that earlier than that. But God has had me in and raising me up as an entrepreneur at a young age. From the very beginning, working with my dad, doing different things. When I wasn't doing that, I was managing crews of drywall hangers and tapers and in different trades and that were twice, 3 times, 4 times my age. God has brought me into the marketplace for a reason. There's been times where I've tried to run away from it, but God has said, no, you're supposed to be in both. In fact, today it was incredible. Someone prayed over me. Zach Scheidler prayed over me today and literally was speaking to that. You've questioned that. Like, he was praying and prophesying, and it was incredible. Everything that was already in my heart. And this was like 40 minutes ago. It was incredible. But here's the thing. I've experienced great success and even greater failure. I've had to make unbelievable sacrifice for the sake of others, and many times throughout my career, I've had to bear the consequences of being driven by greed, fear, pride, and ego, until Jesus rescued me in October of 2010. For the next 2 years, God would take me on a journey of transformation, renewing my mind and healing my heart. All along the way, leading me down a road of discovering there is a right and righteous way to lead a business. I'm still on this road, and the Lord is teaching me more and more every year. In 2013, just a few years later, God was walking me through a process, and he started to speak to me in many different ways about buying out my father. I was trying to run away from my business. I was trying to run away from business because I was so burdened, so stressed, so worn out by everything. My father and I'm a new believer, and I'm walking with God, and God's leading me into areas of Scripture. When I say a right and righteous way, understand, I'm Italian. I come from a lot of crooked individual family history and a family tree where it's like anything we can do to rob the government because they're robbing us, we're going to figure it out. Well, God started saying, no, actually, you got to pay your taxes. There's no such thing as a gray area. And he started doing things, and so there was all this conflict and all this wrestling and fighting. And I just was like, I can't do it anymore. My father and I would literally get in physical fights. Every morning, we'd be there so early fighting for 1 or 2 hours, and then people would show up, our employees, and they'd be like, just leave them alone. And their tension was so intense, it was so much, and it was just like, I can't take this anymore, I'm going to run away. And God said, no, you're not going to run away. You're going to buy out your father. And not only are you going to buy him out, but whatever he asks for, anything, I had put a plan together when I went, and we went to sit down and mediate and discuss what assets he would get, what I would get. And before I walked into that meeting, the Lord said, give him everything he asks for. Everything. What I didn't know is that as that result in 2013, walking through that would become a tear in our relationship, and we wouldn't talk for several years after that. In his mind, what I was giving, the question with it was like, it's deserved, but I'm sitting there going, I'm about to give everything away. All the things that I had written down, I'm going through my list, I'm about to walk in, and God goes, I want you to give him everything. So here's the really crazy thing with that. In giving him everything, I didn't know that was going to be the beginning of learning how to open my hands in business. I didn't know that was going to be the beginning of saying, none of this is mine, this is all yours, and I'm going to hold it loosely. How many of us at different times, like you feel called to something and God's trying to do different things and you're not sure what to do with it? He wants you to lead or build people up, and you're like, I got to grab a hold of it. I got to control it. I've got to do it this way. If I don't do this way, find yourself manipulating, you find yourself doing all these different things and you don't even know that you're doing. So here's the thing. He built that, and in that time leading up to that, God had given me 2 verses. The first was Proverbs 22:1. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, and favor is better than silver and gold. I had no clue what that meant. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. Well, that has to do with his name. That has to do with integrity. That makes sense. But favor is better than silver and gold. And here's the thing. I want every single one of you to leave with something today that you can implement tomorrow. And it took several years. It wasn't until 2 or 3 years later that God started to speak to me about favor. We had done a job for a customer of ours, and I'm serious, it looked like someone had installed it with their feet. It was like this was the worst job there could ever be. It was so bad, it was so hideous, and I'm there for the walkthrough with the customer and the owners and going to walk through this. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to rip every single bit of this out of here. Like, what are we going to do, God? They walk in and they look at me and they're like, this is the most wonderful thing I've ever seen in my life. You guys crushed it. And I was like, what? Favor. Tomorrow, when it comes to your customers, God has given every single one of you, if you're in sales, if you're in any sort of thing like that, the idea behind this is you have a customer base that belongs to you. They're ours. And over the last 10 years plus, we've gotten 99% of their work. The only time we haven't is because a designer's been involved with someone that didn't belong to us. But as far as them as a whole, they belong to us. They're ours. And we have favor with them. Money couldn't have bought that job. It would have cost us tens of $20,000s to replace it. But they had only eyes to see how amazing it was. And I was like, this is horrible. That's favor. So just like the Israelites were called into a promised land, you've been called into a land that belongs to you. Whether that's a geographical area or whether that's a customer base. Tomorrow you can implement that. Tomorrow you can start to look at and go, where do I have favor? Because as leaders, sometimes it's painful and it's hard when we lose certain things. We're like, oh gosh, that's brutal, that's horrible. Like it just breaks your heart. You lose a bid or something, you just crushes you. Maybe you weren't supposed to have it. So starting tomorrow, start praying, do you have favor with them? Do they belong to you? Are they yours? Some are for your competitors. That's just how it is. And so continuing on, God also gave me another verse, Jeremiah 29:7. And this is going to lead us into all of this here for today. Jeremiah 29:7. Seek first the welfare of the city in which I have sent you into, and pray to the Lord on its behalf. For in its prosperity, you will find your well-being. I paraphrase some of that. But the idea is, God had to really show me that as a business leader in this community, it wasn't about me and all of the profits I can make and the money I can make out of it and where I can go and what I can build and building my empire. No, it was about the city in which I was planted in. And if they were to succeed, if we were to succeed, it was about their success. So every employee, every single person under my stewardship, every single person under my management, it was about their families and their lives. It wasn't about how much money I can make and how much I can stick in my pocket and how I can screw the government this way and I can cheat this person that way. And I was all about how can I get people to work for cheap. He was like, no, actually, I want you to start doubling their salaries. He's like, there's no way. I'm not recommending that. Okay, don't go to mom and be like, unless God speaks that to you, don't do that. But the thing is God will lead you in it, and the reality is it's not mine. You see, God had to continue to take me down a process and a road of refining and learning, and over the next several years, he would take me on a journey of healing and refining to become a healthy leader so I could build healthy organizations. How many of us sometimes feel like we're not healthy? I'm struggling in this, and I'm doing everything I can, and it's all I have to hold on. You see, that Jeremiah 29:7, that's the foundational scripture for this church, a church for the city. You see, when you get to realize and you work through the process with God and he shows you that it's not yours, it never was yours, it doesn't belong to you, everything you have is his, it all belongs to him, and it's meant for you to just hold with open hands and steward and just say, okay, God, this is yours. It all belongs to you. You see, something changes when people owe you money and you realize it's his business, not yours. And trust me, it still gets me. I got someone's owed me money for like 16 months now, and I just want to go rip the door off the hinges and pay me. And God's like, that's not how it works. It's like, God, someone owes you money. Maybe you should do something. But this is the thing, it gets in me because this is the thing. Being a business for the city, being a church for the city, you as a leader running your business, thinking about it's beyond you, it's bigger than you, it's more important than you. It's about my employees, and when money doesn't come in, that means food doesn't go in their mouths. You see, every single person that's under my management, whether it's a church, whether it's a business, it's about raising them up to be powerful people so that they can go out and affect the community. And so that verse is foundational in all of this. One, it's not mine, it never was, and the reality is it's his. And so here's the vision of the church. Here's why we're here gathered today and what we want to see built up and raise up, and what we're asking you to come into agreement with, come around and look at and say, how do I grab a hold of this? How do I become a part of this? And how do I carry this out? And it's a church for the city, Jeremiah 29:7. We are called to be a church that is a transformative force for our city, seeking its peace, praying for its prosperity, and believing for its salvation. We see a city not as it is, but as it could be. every family made whole, every heart set free, every corner of our community touched by the power of the gospel. We are not waiting for heaven. We're bringing heaven to earth now, building a legacy of faith for generations to come. When you grab a hold of that and you understand you're building something greater than just bringing in an income. Or how can I build my land? How can I build my empire? How can I build my fortress? How can I build up my assets and all my things? Some of you, I look around this room and I think, like, there's some of you that are doing this in incredible ways. People that own houses that they're renting to other people that have gone through traumatic experiences and different things. Some of you have used your gifts and the prosperity that God has given you to bless others, to be generous. But God's saying even bigger. You see, when you get a vision that this is why I exist, and the people that are under my employment, that I manage, whatever it is, like I'm raising them up to go out and do this. Some of them don't even know it yet. Some of them, they're like, who's this Jesus and why do we even care? And they're like, oh, they don't even realize what they're a part of. You see, that's the heart. And so why you? It's time to start asking God, give me a vision for this that's bigger than me. God, give me a vision for this that's a foundational thing that the next generation would build upon. Schools are having all sorts of issues. There's levies going on right now. Teachers aren't getting paid enough. It's like, well, what happens when God's people are living under his economy and his government and the resources? Again, our God, our Father, owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. Imagine the kind of resources that says, we're going to partner with the school because we want better education. You see, it feeds into all sorts of things, and it starts with business for a reason. There's 5 areas, and it's on that page there. But it starts with the place that says, I've got a vision for a community that's bigger and better than what I'm living in now. And I'm seeing, and whose architect sees its foundation and builds something that's kingdom. And how do you grab a hold of that? What can you do to be a part of that? And so our mission is to raise up powerful people, thriving families, and kingdom-driven community that transforms our culture and society. As we equip, empower, and release people in their God-given calling, we will see the gospel transform the very foundation of our city and define its future for generations to come. And so here's the thing. I've given you a nugget that you can go and you can implement tomorrow. Here's a second one. Start inviting God in to say, God, what do you want me to see? What does it mean? What does it look like to truly seek the welfare of this city? Your business doesn't just exist. Like, I love when I have conversations with Donnelly's, like, I forget the line you say, they're like God meetings, you're facilitating. What is your line you tell me? About people coming in and you're fostering those conversations. You know what's amazing about that? You didn't hear anything about coffee. He owns a coffee shop. Okay. Like, it's incredible. When you go in there, there's a peace there. There's a presence there. It had nothing to do with coffee. Coffee's just the product that they deliver, that people come in and they sip and they enjoy, but they have God-centered conversations. There's connection, there's discipleship, there's all these other things. That's a vision that says, hey, it's bigger than selling coffee. So start asking the Lord. Jay, Dan, would you guys come on up here and join me? We're cruising. I'm like way past the time. Okay. They're going to share a quick little something as to what does gospel transformation look like in the marketplace. Okay. Oh, here. Donald, you got to share that again so it's on the recording. Yes. Hold the mic up. Is it green?
So
There we go.
So the space that we're holding at Mokai is, like Michael shared, we were a coffee shop, but a lot of what we're doing as a team, is really just trying to foster people's conversation and foster watching, like I always talk about how I watch first dates, I watch business meetings, I watch a lot of sermon preps, I watch a lot of people being a community within the store. So sure, we're selling coffee, and sure, we're trying to, you know, make money through it. But what we find fulfilling for us is really just watching the community be themselves, allowing each other to be successful in that space. And so that's really what has motivated me in doing what I do, because we'll have some hard days, we'll have some periods where things are not going the way I envisioned it, but every day I see people walk in and I see people motivated, meeting for the first time and planning to do something in that space is really what we're there for. So whether we're open or not open, that space is still there available for the community to try and build something. And so that's what I've been doing, is just enjoying watching that. So Mukai means arise. Mukai means wake up. Mukai means it's a new awakening, really. So we're looking to just allow people to get a cup of coffee and grow something. Wake up and see the sunrise and enjoy. And else to put in, but that's what Mukai is, and you'll see in our logo. I'm a musician, so you'll see we've got our vinyl record on there, and my heritage is Zimbabwe, and I was born in Zimbabwe, so we have the national plant, which is a flame lily, that's on there, I pay homage to that. But that's about who we are and who I am and who God's brought me to be. So I do my best to be vulnerable in that space and let people see who I am. And so there's nothing special about what we're doing. It's just I show up every day and like my team tells me what we're doing every day. They're the ones who say, this is what the community is looking for, this is what the community is needing, and so I just follow suit, and so my job is to just make sure we don't go bankrupt.
That's a good position to be in. Yeah. Okay, I want to share a little bit about Dan. Dan is a partner and chief operating officer at Rotherham Construction. He's got over 30 years of experience in the commercial construction industry, has built a reputation for excellence, specializing in multifamily development projects across the Pacific Northwest. As a partner and chief operating officer of Rotherham Construction, he is instrumental in driving operational success, fostering a culture of service, and ensuring that every project upholds the highest standards of quality and craftsmanship while driving savings through precision management and efficient process. And he's going to share how beyond that, Jesus is evident in their business.
How is Jesus evident in our business? I can tell you that Jesus has not been very evident in our business. And that's a challenge that I've been trying to figure out how to overcome. Some of you know a bit of my testimony. I've been saved for 25 years. Was in a pretty dry spell for about 10 years, up until a couple of years ago. And that's not what this is about, but it pertains to some of this. So once I turned things around and I surrendered myself completely and allowed God into my life to work in my life properly, where I hadn't been doing for 25 years. And once that happened, I was lit. Let's go. Everybody needs saved. Everybody needs healed. But although that's how I was in my head and my heart, I didn't know how to make that happen. So I kind of surrendered into a lot of things. I started taking prophetic classes that our church does. I started getting involved in our pursuit nights. I started going out with a group of gentlemen and doing street evangelism at the hospitals and on the streets and all kinds of things. And what I found in all of those things, just like the word tells us, is to meditate on it night and day, right? So when you meditate on it night and day, what happens is you completely transform. David's message today is complete evidence of all of that. And so as that started happening, Pastor Michael came to me about a year ago, and he says, hey, being a business owner, I want you to think about doing a class, much like what we're talking about here. And I was like, okay. I didn't know how to make that happen. I thought about my company, which prior to 3 years ago, I was not the owner of the company. I was an employee for the company. So I spent about 7, 8 years with all of my employees of now being coworkers. Go back to what I started this with, I was in a dry spell where I was not living as God intended me to live. As a construction worker at the bar after work with the same guys that are my employees now, and this guy asked me to do a class on what Jesus is like in the corporate world. And I didn't know how to introduce that, especially in the construction field where I had sent the wrong message for several years with what are now my employees. And so what I found was in all the surrendering and just leaving it in God's hands and saying, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to make this happen. All of a sudden, God starts opening those doors. And when I'm out on the street with a handful of guys and I'm ministering to people on the street, all of a sudden, one of my business partners comes walking down the sidewalk. And he walks up and he says, hey, what are you doing? I said, well, me and these guys are out sharing God with a bunch of people and seeing people saved. And he's like, oh, didn't you do that fast thing a while back? Yeah, that's what I was talking about with the fast, what God can do in your life. And so God starts opening the doors without me just walking in the light, right? What does Matthew 14 say? It says, in the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. And so when I completely surrendered myself and allowed God to take control of that, I'll add a little further. 2 weeks ago, Friday afternoon, there's about 10 of my employees and business partners sitting in the conference room just kind of talking about what we're going to do over the weekend as we're winding down. And I had to take off because I'd promised my wife I'd take her to the movies that night. And I'm like, guys, I got to run, take my wife to the movies. What movie are you going to see? My kids are going to see Minecraft. No, I'm not going to see Minecraft. The Chosen is out. The Chosen? What's The Chosen? One of my business partners, who's a Christian, that ran into me on the street, that sees me walking all this out, says, oh, The Chosen's about Jesus Christ. And I'm walking out the back door, and the last thing I heard is my whole company sitting in a room talking about Jesus. So I guess my message here is, it's surrender, right? If we surrender and walk in the light as he intended us to walk in the light, be the light, let God do the work. He'll transform every one of your companies and businesses.
I asked Dan because over the last couple of years, I've been getting to walk alongside and see the process, the conversations. How do I live this out in my business? How do I this? How do I that? And really, ultimately, as you heard him say, and he's even sharing with you, is just complete surrender. It's just starting with prayer. It's starting with surrender. And we're getting to see these incredible things. There's other testimonies and other things that we're sharing, like walking alongside one another and different stuff. And he can share testimonies all day of all sorts of stuff that God is doing in incredible things. People he's worked with, architects that are walking in the church, and he's like, Michael, Pastor, this guy, remember that project we were on, the architect for that project? He's here. And you're just like, yeah. Those are the things when you start to open your eyes and you start to realize that your business and what you've been called to is bigger than you. It's about the city. It's about the community. It's not just about the business. So I want to share a little bit about Jay, Mr. Jay Matthews. Jay has spent the last 13 years in highly complex, large global organizations, both as an individual contributor and leader of diverse teams. He spent 6 years with Nike as the North America brand manager for Nike Football, as well as Nike's core cleated footwear and apparel business, collectively $1 billion business, collaborating with large teams in various countries, including North America, Western Europe, and Greater China. For the last 7 years, he has been at Sika Gear, a global outdoor apparel brand owned by W.L. Gore and Associates, the makers of Gore-Tex. He spent 4 years as head of marketing and creative, and for the last 3 years has been head of product creation. See, when I go and write this stuff, it's all over the place. Your pastor's got bad grammar and not good at this. As well as a member of SICA's leadership team, where he partners with other leaders to craft brand vision, author strategic initiatives, steer investments, and develop core organizational and cultural values. You're up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. He embellished a little bit. So yeah, he mentioned I've spent 13 years or so in pretty large organizations. And with that comes a lot of meetings and a lot of meetings about meetings, right? And oddly enough, rarely do I get to actually interact with customers, right? So all of my interaction is almost exclusively with other employees. So that shapes my answer to this question about what gospel transformation looks like. So I've gotten to experience large organizations at their best, which can be the best expression of a team environment, because it takes all the great characteristics of a team and it just amplifies them to like an immeasurable scale. In contrast, that can be really fun. It's really rewarding, right? It's energizing. You got a lot of people unified under a direction and a vision, and it's like one of the best teams you can be a part of in the marketplace. I've also seen it at its worst, and at its worst, it's the opposite of all that. Because instead of, amplifying characteristics of great teams, it takes the worst of selfish personal ambition and magnifies it to an immeasurable scale. So much so that the word corporate has like changed its definition, right? The word corporate literally means structure and legal status. Like when you hear people say like, oh, it got so corporate, I think what they're saying is that it became ambiguous, impersonal, bureaucratic, and soulless, right? And it's like the Kleenex effect. At some point, Kleenex became so synonymous with tissues, they stopped calling them tissues, they just call them Kleenex, right? Corporate is kind of that way, right? It's so synonymous with impersonal bureaucracy that the words are just interchangeable. And I just refuse to accept that it has to be that way. And I don't think those are problems that are unique to large organizations, right? I think it's a consequence of growth. And 1 degree off in the move from 5 to 25 employees is wrought with the same challenges as 500 to 5,000 employees, right? So don't tune out if you don't work for a large company, because I think the principles apply. And so in thinking about what gospel transformation looks like in the marketplace, there was a statement that I hung on to at a young age that kind of shaped me as a leader, and it says there's no such thing as bad teams, there's only bad leaders. And that's not to say that aptitude is not a part of the equation, it is, but it's to say that leaders, we don't have the luxury of skirting accountability when it comes to results and culture. So it has to start with us. And I don't mean leaders on paper, right? You're all in this room because you're leaders, and transformation in the marketplace has to begin here. It has to begin with leaders. And I think Acts chapter 4, instead of trying to tell you what I think it looks like, I think Acts chapter 4 gives us a great example of it. And it's when Peter and John are called before the Sanhedrin and questioned for the healing of a lame beggar. And so you have Peter and John, obviously transformed by the Gospels, leader of a growing Christian church in Jerusalem. And then you have the Sanhedrin, that was the Supreme Court of Israel with a lot of worldly authority, that denied the resurrection and was not transformed by the gospel. And so we get to see this on display as they kind of come into conflict. And so they asked Peter and John, they say, by whose name did you heal this man? And they say it was by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom you crucified. So right there we see a boldness that's like not humanly to stand in the Supreme Court and hold them accountable for the death of the Messiah. And this like totally blows the Sanhedrin back. They actually asked them to walk outside, and we see this debate emerge of what they should do, right? And they're like, well, if we deny this obvious event and punish these men, then all those Christians will know we're frauds and liars. If we do nothing, the Roman government, who thinks that preaching the name of Jesus is revolutionary, well, they'll have it out for us. And so nowhere in this text do we see them have any principles of their own, right? They're just trying to thread the needle between two parties with conflicting interests and manage their image, right? And in contrast to that, we see Peter and John stand there on the boldness, unwilling to move from their principles, right? And so they say, Peter and John, you're not allowed to preach the gospel anymore. And Peter and John say, respectfully, no, we're not going to do that. We answer to God, not to man. They go home to their church, and they inspire them by the persecution. They ask for more boldness and deeper convictions in their principles. And I think right there we see the difference between leaders who are transformed by the gospel and leaders who are not. Right? Leaders who are not, they're operating solely out of the fear of man. And like the wind, they just move from high pressure to low pressure. Get out of the heat. Right? And then we see leaders who are operating on the fear of God. They have a set of principles that are guiding their decisions and their interactions every single day. And so I think that's what has to happen in the marketplace is leaders who operate on the fear of God, not the fear of man, and walk into a system that has literally erected a set of rewards that evokes the fear of man, right? Like everything about business is designed to evoke the fear of man. So we got to go into that system and be motivated and inspired by the fact that it actually is diametrically opposed to what we believe, right? Just like the apostles were. And they inspired their teams behind that idea. And the fruit of that, the fruit of it is, leaders that are recognize, as Michael said, that their position of leadership is not theirs. It's been entrusted to them by God, and they find mission beyond the transactional act of making money. I love Donnelly's answer about, his mission has nothing to do with coffee, right? But it's a great mission that he's united his team behind. And obviously building and inspiring teams behind a clear vision. Build teams that know that their role is valued and desire to know their employees and their teams beyond the four walls of the office. And so, for me, I don't have a blueprint of how this happens. But I think for me, my answer is disappointingly simple of how I'm trying to do my best to walk this out. And it's first by recognizing that I am not immune to the corrupting influence of the marketplace, right? It's just like accepting the fact that it's like, yes, we're going to have to work and rub against the grain a little bit in this place. And for me, it's just like fighting my way into his presence every day and practicing his presence in the office. I'll literally go to the extent where I'll block my calendar for 15 minutes because I'll be lucky if I get 8 hours without a 15-minute opening in between meetings. I'll just walk around the building and pray. Just ask for his help. Right? I'll write things on my hands just for that, just that little reminder throughout the day because it's so easy to go into that place and leave him at home. So I have to really practice his presence to help guide my decision as a leader and a teammate. So that's what it looks like to me, leaders who operate on the fear of God and are committed to practicing his presence, and everything that comes after that is fruit, and the fruit's amazing.
So I picked the two of them because so many of us, some of you, it's just you. It's just you and a few people, and you're struggling thinking, how can I affect this? How can I affect that? You got to hear from two leaders, a high-level manager who's part of a leadership team that's trying to affect culture and atmosphere and all these different strategies and things in a world, in a way where it's like, God, it's not about Jesus. And how do we bring that into it? How do I operate in this? How do I affect this? That's something that's so established against everything that is God's kingdom, and bring change and transformation. You've got a man who came up out of, who was an employee and a manager, came up out of it, and now he's not the sole owner, but he's one of three, and is saying, how do I go forward with the way God is calling me and affect this? All of us are asking that question. How do I walk this out as a believer? You get to hear from them. I get to walk with them. I've had the privilege over the last several years getting to walk with them in the different challenges as God will inspire things on their heart. And they're like, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do it. And at the end of the day, this is the most incredible thing. And I love the stories. Is like, it just takes courage. It takes fear of God over fear of man. It takes complete surrender to just say, I'm surrendering it all. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I'm going to surrender it all. I'm going to be integral about it, and I'm just going to be the son that God has called me to be, and I'm going to walk it out. Maybe it's be the son, maybe be the daughter, it's whatever it is. And so the thing is, I hope you're encouraged by this and inspired, because this is the reality. They, at one point or another, were like, I have no clue how to do this. I'm seeing incredible transformation at Rotherham Construction happening right now in all sorts of ways. We've got a man who's leading studies in a corporate world where it's not allowed. Walking with people that are losing family members or losing this thing, seeing people get cut and let go of teams that he's built in ways where it's like we've built a culture and atmosphere, and now I'm watching it get destroyed, and having to grieve that and have to deal with that and help keep those people encouraged that they can actually have an effect. They're walking through all sorts of challenging things, just like you are. Every single one of us, day in and day out. walking through this challenge or that challenge or whatever it is, but God wants to tell you you're a part of this for a reason. And today you can start planting those seeds for a harvest that's going to come. You can start to look at, you get to hear some different stories, and you guys need to look across this room and have conversation with one another. And we're always looking for other people to disciple us. But what happens when God says, hey, actually, I want you to walk with the person on your left and the person on your right, because it's about a community and it's about relationship. And there's people in this room that you can connect with and you can walk with. It might not be extravagant, it might not be fancy, but here's the next thing. We're going to have some conversation. David's going to come up here and share a little bit about what we're going to do next and how we're going to get some feedback from you today on what it is that's missing that you need. You guys are going to have some conversation from here. He's going to explain that.
All right. The reason we've gathered here today, you're probably wondering still, why are we here? Dearly beloved, I'm going to preach another sermon now. Here we go. So Michael and I and Aaron were just talking about the vision of the church, living in the kingdom. What does the kingdom look like in these 5 areas of influence, right? In the marketplace, in healthcare, in education. And we're like, that's such an overwhelming thing for us, but we know we're called to it in a very specific way. And so Aaron was like, well, let's just get everyone in the room and ask them what this looks like. And so that's really why we're here today. We're here to ask you, what does it look like to be a church for the city in the marketplace, in management, in leadership? Because as a church, we're trying to figure it out. So a lot of churches plant, and they have this great vision, and they have a mission, and they have all these things just fleshed out. We came about in a different way, where the Lord's just been downloading things to Michael over the years, and I'm sitting here like, okay, let's make that make sense. And the Lord's revealing pieces and pieces as we go along. So we're like trying to build this thing. I love the build a plane as it takes off type of a thing. A little bit of that, building a plane as it takes off. But we know for certain we're called to these 5 areas as a church. And we don't really know where to start other than let's get all the people in a room and let's share some vision and let's get some vision. And so that's what we're going to do next, really, is just pull from all of you what you see and what you need. So just like Jay and Dan and Michael shared what they see and experience Jesus in their work environment looks like, what do you see? Like, I'm sure everyone in this room is like, oh, I got this thing I could share or this resource I could share. Like, just let me tell you, I'm sure everyone has one of those things. And so in front of you, that's why we have 2 cards. One I'm going to hand out in just a second. I held on to it because I didn't want to make a bigger mess of the tables than they are. So here's the first. Oh yeah, so it's just 1 per table. Yep, 1 per table. So you have to pick a person, and they're going to take notes. Let me explain it first. I thank you for being helpful, but you just ruined everything. No. So this sheet right here, this is for you to fill out. Start filling it out, even if your table starts talking about other things. Start filling this out, because you personally, as an individual, we want to know who you are, the position and role you have in your company. Like, maybe you're in health, or maybe in the business marketing space. Like, where do you work? Do you own a business? Are you a CEO? Are you a finance person? Let us know who you are. What are your challenges? What are your needs? And what are your fears? Like, how can we then take that? We want to know how we can help you to thrive in this area. So it's like, what are your biggest challenges? Do you need people? Do you need support? Do you need a meeting with Pastor Michael? Hopefully you don't all put that. That's not going to happen if you all put that. Sorry. Do you need the church to preach on this more? Do you need books? What do you need? And what are your fears? What's holding you back? And what are your challenges? So as you have time, we really want to collect these from you so that we can, even from a church and pastoral standpoint, we know how to help you. That's what this is for. And now what Elijah is going to hand out, 1 per table, this little table notes, we're going to simultaneously have your table. Literally, you have to just mark off who's at your table. I know they all became long tables, but whoever's at your table, and discuss these 2 questions. What do we see and what do we need? And then I'm just going to go around and I'm just going to ask each table kind of what you sort of came up with as a table. So have a discussion amongst yourselves. What do you see kingdom looks like? And we got to hear from Donald, so it's that exact thing. What Donald said, what's your version? What do you see? And then what do you need? And we're going to take 15 minutes to just do this. And so Write your personal one out so we can have that, but at the same time as a table, start talking about what do you see and what do you need. And then I'm going to come around and we're just going to hear from, we're going to pick whoever's taking notes. I'm going to just hand you the microphone and have you share for just a quick minute on what the table talked about. Here's some things we see. Here's some things that we're needing. So if you're taking notes, you're going to speak, just so you know. So go for it. Start just for 15 minutes. Just talk about, maybe just tell the table, here's what I'm doing right now, what I'm over. This is how I see the kingdom working, and these are some things that I need. All right. I know I'm waiting. You guys done yet? No. I know we need 20 more minutes for sure. Probably 2 hours. And so, so I know a lot of you haven't had a chance yet to even to share anything. And sorry, you missed out big time. But on this piece, on your sheet of paper, before I forget, our email for the church is just on the bottom of that piece of paper. Please send us, like, if you're sitting here going, oh, if only they knew the resources that I had, or this book, or this company, just email them to it. Like, just spam us with everything you got. Every link, video, book, just spam it. Just put in the email title, it's for the Business Summit, so we can know. We'll just send it. If you have thoughts, if you have a testimony, if you have anything you want to just share, just email it. We would love to have it. We want to gather all of that. Since we don't have all the time to get through it all. So I'm going to go around real quick. It's like 40 minutes, which we don't have. So we might not get to all the tables. That's okay. Whose table just wrote down the best stuff ever and you want to share? This one? That one? Okay. Well, you let me know. We're going to start right here. You got in as quickly as you can, in like a minute, if you can.
Okay. Are we doing both or just?
Yes. So start with the what you see, and then we're going to go into the what you need. Okay. Cram it all into a minute in 18 seconds.
Okay. I'll try my best. Okay. For what we see overall.
Here, I'm going to hold it for you. That way I can pull it away if you go long. Okay. And I can hold it right.
Okay. Overall. So we have what we see is generally living in the light as ourselves as leaders, and then investing in the people and not just the skill, like finding a diamond in the rough. And then also shifting our own mindsets to see how God has wired us specifically, and using those gifts to transform those around us. So like for us, we get a lot of clients that have trauma, so using that in that atmosphere. So for specific needs, I think overall resounding was generational mentorship, especially like elder leadership. And so that can come in many different forms. But let's see. Also having a teaching on business basics, whether that be like setting up books, finances, things like that, or having a yearly conference that is like a business vision that can like really deep dive, and then having a church business directory, as well as a HIPAA certified prayer team, because we deal with a lot and we could use that. And I mean, that's way more than a minute and a half, but we could go into that for ourselves, but also for our clients need that as well.
That was amazing. Awesome. Thank you. You guys had a great table. Wow. That's so cool. We'll collect these so we have all this. But that's huge. Like that, you can tell already. So you can sign up starting next week, Vision Summit. Every year, we're having one. That's great. Wow, thank you. And who's next? You guys, is it good, Philip? Nope, it's not worth sharing. Oh, you'll go too long. Is that why? I'll hold the mic.
Yeah. So what we see is that there's a great.
Do you want to stand up since I'm in your way?
Be easier for you to hold for sure too. So what we see is a need is we need prayer. We need to. That's so good. Come on, preacher. We get to see people very vulnerable. Implementation of walking out in faith is what some of us have seen in our business. In other words, like walking in faith in all of our decisions, and what does that look like to walk that out when God asks you to do something in business. What we need is, our table said that there's a need for encouragement. I think that falls under line of mentorship, and I think any business would be well served with mentorship or any kind of encouragement. I like the way Jordan put it, a team of individuals around you that in your lowest time can see your business for what it is and encourage you to this level in which your business is going to be versus where you happen to be seeing it at the time. Also in line with what we see as part of our business, we also need prayer at our table, and then probably like marketing help is like one of the biggest things.
Marketing help. I think we all need that, don't we? Who's our marketing pros? Okay, that's great. Thank you. Where is he? Who was it? You. You're hired by everybody, probably in this room. You shouldn't have raised your hand. Okay, you guys.
David, jump to this side. Go zigzag around.
Yeah.
So we get to
All right.
there. This table. Trevor and Blues and Dykstra's.
Who's going? Okay, you want to stand? No. And we can all see your face.
So I found out we filled this out wrong. For what we see, we were writing down the issues that we see, and what we need, we were writing down the solutions for what we saw.
That sounds great.
One of the biggest issues that we all resonated with was lack of unity in vision. And so being able to come together and join with the same mind in the mission that we have when we're in these leadership roles, specifically in like partnerships or like groups of leadership, joining in same mission. And one thing that we think would be super beneficial is delegating people based on their gifting instead of spreading people thin or trying to do things you're not good at, pointing people in the direction of their gifting. And one thing that was a little more specific to maybe like super seasonal business is we think it would be super cool to see, instead of like fundraising for a mission, having some sort of seasonal work that includes discipleship and raising up, and then in your low season of work, doing outreach and evangelism and missions. And so, for example, in my painting company, like taking this super high volume work in the summer, being able to make a bunch of money and succeed, and then instead of just sitting back and praying and seeking the Lord for work in the winter, taking that free time and being able to utilize it in ministry, I think would be super sweet.
I feel bad I just left that table hanging, but we'll come back if we will have a few minutes. All right. Who wants to go? Let me ask. Because we won't make it, everyone. We'll go with Elijah.
Stand on a chair. Just kidding. Is it? Okay. So
You're not going to hold the microphone. I'm just, no matter how high you get, I'm holding it.
Get it up there. So we were just chatting about like how leadership is often plagued by loneliness, and so the opportunity is speaking into business people's lives as we get to operate with them, give them that hope of the gospel. But then, as far as need for us, is accountability. It's so easy to be a leader and you have that high capacity A-type personality and you're just making stuff happen. It can easily get you outside of your grace and dependence on God. And then church engagement with business owners. So we're doing that. This is good. But having like direct, intentional engagement from the church with business owners to help minister to them pushing forward in that. And then in that also not seeing that business is a holy calling. It's not secular, sacrosanct versus sacred. It's a holy calling. And then really encouragement for leaders was in the need department.
That's good. Yeah. These guys, and then we'll come back. Mr. Scott.
All right, so what we see, I'll just hit our bullet points. Spiritual conversations, there's a place for them, but it's sometimes the tact of knowing how do we have them and when do we have them, and also having the courage to have them. That's been my experience too, is the Lord always makes space for them, but it's like sometimes just bucking up and doing it and having courage for it. Nervousness to misrepresent Christ. Talk about Jesus and move on. Mark said that. That was a really good point. It's like talk about him and then just like move on. Don't make it awkward. Like make your point or bring it up and then just move on. And if the people want to talk about it, they're going to bring it up again. And that is so true. I thought that was a nugget. And praying for the business, whether it's your business or the business you're a part of, taking time to pray for the space and bless it and bless people who walk through the door. And, you know, even if you're a one-man show, your business still touches so many parts of the market. And what we need, equipping for spiritual conversation, working on correct delivery, as well as permission not to know it all. So, you know, humbling ourselves to say, hey, I need help in this. I don't know anything about hermeneutics. I don't even know what that means, you know? And it's like, okay, what does that look like in the workplace? How do we bring that, whatever it is? Yeah, that's what we got.
Thank you. That's great. All right. Jay, just wanted us to get out of here. Let's wrap it up. Okay. All right, it's the fly. All right. Oh, man, you got a lot of notes. What about this table? I still feel bad for this table. Josh, okay, you guys we'll come back. We'll come back. All right. Nice. They wrote a novel. Wow, this was a good table. Here you go.
We did. I actually started making an acronym out of market of money, affirmation, relationships, and knowledge, but I quit. Actually, that was some of ours, you know, that people need to know their identity. They need to have good communication. They actually need covenant relationships. There needs to be a heart and a knowledge, but also you need to listen to people, but people need to be set free. And then some of our needs are that we saw that there is a need for people just to know their own identity, who they are. Needs to be dialogue, and that the dialogue needs to be different than what's in the church. The dialogue in the business sector looks a lot different than the dialogue in the church atmosphere. There needs to be corporate language, but also just a networking with other businesses and business leaders, coaching, mentoring, business 101 finance, and then a spiritual prophetic coaching. And that didn't come from me. That came from one of our group.
Okay. It's like you just plug that in. George, since I have you here, could you share what you shared with me about this weekend and the significance of the weekend and the other conferences happening?
There's at least 4 other conferences that I know of, leadership conferences that are happening this very weekend. Northern California, Southern California, Austin, Texas, one of them in the UK. But actually, some of them are actually called Leadership Summit. So I think from a spiritual standpoint, there's actually an opportunity to step into a new level of leadership this weekend, not just with C3, but I think nationwide, possibly worldwide. So if that's something you're interested in, there may be some time you can come up to me afterwards, or we can just pray afterwards, just that an anointing would come for a new level of leadership in your business after this weekend.
Yeah.
I just want to joke for a moment, like laugh, because anytime we do anything that's sharing or anything, George is the enforcer. He reminds us every time, hold the mic, hold the mic, hold the mic. And George's like, I got the mic.
And he took it from me.
Constantly
he's holding
reminds
it.
me, don't let go of the mic, Michael.
It's the only reason I let him have it. I was like, if there's one person, he knows holding the mic. All right. So we have 15 minutes. We have a few more minutes. Yeah, let's do 2 more. Do you want to share? Your table want to share? You don't have to. I'm sure there's other. I bet it's really good. Okay. Well, that was relationship. That was the kids. I'm sorry that you're at the kids' table, building relationships, which is the goal. Okay. That's great. Okay, perfect. Then we'll over there. Daniel looks like he's got something. All right. Would you like to? And I'll hold the microphone. He does know jiu-jitsu, so I can't do a whole lot right now. That's why he's positioned his arm on mine. He can.
You're so safe. Don't worry. You're fine. You're a great spotter. What we actually saw a lot of provision from the Lord in our companies, respectively. My business, we got some key funding recently from a venture capitalist, which was kind of, man, like when that was released on our company meeting, like there was tears and people turned. I turned my camera on so that people could see that I was totally not crying. And then kind of all around. Let's see, Ron, this was great. Saw that compassion and kindness and righteousness was coming through customers to you. Is that correct? That's awesome. Those are the kind of customers we all want, right? I guess what we need, continued education, mentorship, right there. This is actually Seth's handwriting. Let's see. What does that one say?
Which one?
That one on the bottom. Yeah.
Daniel, you got to let go of David's arm so we can put the mic closer to your mouth.
Yeah, you're screwing this whole thing up.
Good.
You guys are running out of time.
Sorry, my handwriting's horrible. I'm so sorry. One of our needs is funding, publicity, and mentorship, and mentorship is kind of all around the board, and then direction and just places to go that God's leading us.
That's great.
One more table. Let's do them. I know they said no, but I know they got some nuggets.
Yeah, perfect. We actually might hit. Oh, see. All right, who's gonna share? Oh, we came to the wrong side of the table. Is Ingrid? All right.
We didn't see much, but we need much. So.
It's a very needy table. It's okay.
Josh said that people see standards within his business, which is kind of cool. And I think that applies to a lot of us. And then a lot of things that we need is maintaining financial stability / financial strategy. Training, mentorships, support for solo owners because it's lonely, and more community and connection together, networking.
These two, John and Ingrid, by the way, if you don't know them, they have a grace for just business. Like they can just take anything, get amazing at it, and make money. It's incredible, actually. I don't think they ever even know, but they're incredible. They have a gift. So, is there anything that hasn't been said that anyone else would like to share? Just anything that we didn't overlap? Good. The camera has to see you. Yeah. That way everyone in the world can see you.
Oh, it's kind of close. One thing you guys can think about, I used to go to Journey Church, and I'm just going to add to what George said, is they have what's called the Leadership Summit. It does cost money. Journey puts it on every year, but I tell you guys, it is awesome. If you get a chance to go, you should go. That's all I have for you.
Thank you. Yeah, who's been to the Global Leadership Summit? Yeah, if you've never gone, it actually is pretty life-changing, and just as a leader and business owner, you should all go.
Oh, yeah, you can. So one thing that spurred off of what somebody else was just saying a second ago, but I'd love to know what all of you do and what you do incredibly well, because I'd love to send people to you. You know, like I like the idea that we can collaborate and send business to each other, because what better way of like, you know, this is my community, these are my people, and sending business to each other. But I don't know what everybody does. I'm amazed by what I'm hearing from like what all you guys do. I'm like, wow, but there's so many incredible people who are so interested and talented in so many things. But just maybe if there's a directory or something like where we can, you know, learn what people do and send out referrals. I just love that thought.
Thank you. That's good. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for just sharing that. It is fun to get to hear from everybody. And we have a lot of work to do, but we feel called as a church to pursue this with a lot of passion and to be fully behind it. So it's not just something we're going to kind of let sit. Like, we want to put some next steps to this. And so that's why specifically we gave you the book today. That's just a simple next step, is just read that book. And it's going to hopefully just give you greater perspective on what ministry marketplace looks like. Like, what does the kingdom look like in your space? And so that book is a great start. I know there's probably a lot of books out there that are similar in really good resources, and we'll give you those next. But we just wanted some sort of next step for everyone in this room, and it would be read that book. Additionally, we would love to be having a business group every single time we do our semester of groups. And so we're going to be doing a summer one pretty soon. We'll be signing up for those. And then a fall one, again, they kind of just go back to back throughout the year. And we would love for people in this room to be willing to lead one of those groups, whether you have ideas as to what it could look like. Mike Rohner actually has 3 small group curriculums that you could just walk through if you just need something. It's very basic, but it's just a way to get in the room with other business owners and to keep that connection going. It's going to happen through that environment. And so if that's something you would be willing to do, I'm sure there's a lot of people in this room that would be glad that you said yes to leading it, and they'll be a part of it. And so talk to me about that, because I'm going to get those groups ready to go starting this week, actually. So come talk to me soon. Just grab me and say, yeah, I would actually love to lead a group, and we can talk about what that's going to look like. So read the book, lead a group, and we're gonna reconvene at some point in the future. Michael and I and Aaron and the pastoral staff, we're gonna just take all this stuff and just figure out, okay, Lord, what do we do next? How do we equip and empower this room of people? And we would love to hear from you, from your perspective, how we can do that. Additionally, what we heard today, which is amazing. So thank you. I believe that's it. If Michael wants to pray.
Turn in your cards. So with this is my request to you is what God had put on our hearts over this is over the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be building this. It's going to be going. And I'll never forget, I was at a conference in Seattle, and Rick Warren had said this one line. He said, most leaders, we overestimate what we can accomplish in 5 years and drastically underestimate what we can accomplish in 20 years. And because of my age at that time, I was literally 27 years old, and I was like, I can't even 20 years, like I've not run with anything that long. And I instantly took it 1 in 5. And so the really important thing is there's a lot of information that we're gathering here. This is really good, is to be encouraged and know there's other business leaders in the room. But what we're building and why we talk about the foundation for generations to come is we're thinking 100 years. We're thinking not just us that are in this room, but what we're going through, what we're training, what we're building, what we're developing will be a foundation that generations to come can build upon and see the future leaders in the marketplace that will bring incredible transformation, that will start to rewrite the rules of corporate industry, rewrite the rules of business to bring it in line with what God's heart is in his design and his plan. And so there's going to be some cool things, as David mentioned. You're all on a list now, so we will reach out to you throughout the year and say, hey, we've got the resource. Can you lead this group? And some of those different things. We see classes coming out of this. We see an annual conference. Someone said something about an annual conference. Training, specific industry training, and specific, financial training. That's like the biggest one for people in business is like, man, the finances are such a strain and such a struggle, how to manage that. There's some really cool things. And so I want to leave you with 3 things, okay? And then I want to pray that you can leave here today with, okay? Is one, when I talk about becoming a favor meter, that's so much bigger than you're probably realizing. For example, Gavin, just the other day, we're talking about, we were having a conversation about a meeting where he encountered this person, which led to meeting this person, which led to the bulk of his business that he's getting right now. It was divine appointment, divine appointment, divine appointment. That's favor. God opens doors, and you, like Dan was saying about just surrendering and just showing up and being ready. So a couple quick things is really looking at that tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow, literally tomorrow, you could just start saying, God, open my eyes to see the different things. I will tell you, Tara Wolf has been divinely appointed in my life at multiple times in my life. Literally, during a time and a season just recently in October where things weren't selling very quickly. God gave us a word. We needed funds to pour into our company to get with her. One, she is my realtor and has been for a while. And whenever I'm doing different things, she's involved in it with me. And there's a relationship there that God brought together. God brought that together. But literally, we list my house and I'm under contract in less than 48 hours in a season that's not happening. It's incredible. Like God just works through things. But it's about having your eyes open to where is that favor? Who is God aligning you with for this thing or that thing? That relationship specifically, that beginning conversation that Gavin had with somebody, that didn't produce results until a couple years later, right? But not realizing the different appointments that God will bring you into. So start to look for that. Where is that favor? And it might look differently than you think or realize, okay? Then praying, taking. You can implement these things tomorrow. Like these are real things. So rather than coming from this and leaving here and going, well, great, I shared some things, but now it's a year or 2 years later, it's like, what's coming out of it? You can leave with something. 1, become a favor meter. 2, start scheduling in. If you can't do the 15 minutes like Jay expressed he's doing, make it 5. Maybe it's your drive from your house to your place of business. Some of you might work from home, so it might be your walk from your bathroom to your office, okay? Whatever it is, give it to him. If you can only fit 5, start with 5. But if you can do 15, do 15. And just give God the space to speak to you, to pray, to be intentional. These are small things that every single person can do starting tomorrow. I had a third one, and, Yeah, third. I had a third one and I lost it, but it's okay. We're going to pray. I'm going to pray for you specifically like George was saying. So if you today, you're like, God, I'm ready for that next level thing. Put your hands out. Lord, I just ask for a blessing over every single person here, Lord, that is here intentionally. You brought them here, Lord. I ask for an increase of leadership over every single person here. Lord, I ask for your blessing over them, over their minds, over their hearts, Lord, over their spirits, Lord. Would you come and do a mighty work, Lord? You're moving and shifting things in this region, in the atmosphere, in the spirit realm. You're doing things, and you've called every single one of these people here today for this purpose, Lord. You've called them into the marketplace, Lord. I speak to those over those that don't realize or recognize the leader that they've been called to be. I just speak leader. I speak identity of son, of daughter over them, Lord, and I ask for a release. Lord, I ask that you would come and you would break off every bit of stinking thinking that has been plaguing these leaders. Any form of lie, any lie, any assignment from the enemy that has been casted towards them, that have been directed towards them, that they're not qualified, they're not good enough, they're not doing good enough, they're a failure or anything like that, I just break that off in Jesus' name. Lord, and I ask for an increase of grace, an increase of anointing. Brother, the Lord is highlighting you, especially right there. You've got your hat in your hands and your sunglasses in the back, right? Yep, you. He is highlighting you. He wants to break off any old trauma, any negative experiences you've had when it comes to business, and he's inviting you into something new. He's inviting you into something new. It's up to you. You can choose today to say yes to him. Lord, I thank you for what you're doing. I thank you for each and every individual in this room, Lord. I ask for more. More, Lord. Would you come? Hold your hands out like you're receiving grace from heaven, like you're receiving a package. Lord, would you come right now and touch every single one of their hands? Touch their minds, Lord. I ask for more, and I ask for new grace, new wisdom, Lord. I ask for more understanding specific to their role, specific to the industry that they're in. Lord, I ask that you'd come and you'd bring a download, an increase of wisdom, an increase of discernment, Lord. Give them courage, give them boldness, Lord. I speak boldness over this room, over every single person here. Courage, supernatural courage, Lord. Holy Spirit, divine courage, Lord. Heavenly courage, Lord, just that you would speak to them and you would bolster their hearts, that you would bring an increase of understanding, that they would be able to leave here today and walk in confidence. Lord, I ask that you'd give them fresh vision, you'd give them new hope, Lord, that you'd bring an increase and you'd strengthen their heart and re-encourage every single one of them to know that you have called them, Lord. You have set them apart. As Elijah was saying, the marketplace isn't this secular thing, but it's holy. It's something you've called them into, and you've designed them for it, Lord. I just speak leader. I just say leader. If you're an entrepreneur, you're that for a reason. If you have a vision for that and a heart for that, you're that for a reason. If you're a high-level manager, you're that for a reason. God's called you to this. Receive it. Own it. Lord, I pray blessing over them, and I thank you for them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you for coming. Real quick, so Mike Rovner, they sent us 150 books for free, like overnight. And so I was like, how can we just say thank you? I'm going to take a photo. So everyone hold up your book. We're taking a photo. Don't worry. It's not like you just joined a multi-level marketing company and we're saying, hey, trip to Florida. Here it comes. Just kidding. All right, 1, 2, 3, boom. It's just a thank you. And they're going to be appreciative. So thanks, guys. Have a great week. And then Philip will grab your cards. Give them to Philip.
Hey, since you're here, real quick, God reminded me of what that third thing was that you can do tomorrow. So, tomorrow, starting tomorrow, because this is the biggest thing, and when you read in this book, you'll learn prayer is powerful. Starting tomorrow, remember one face from this today and pray for them. Be intentional to pray for somebody else in this room starting tomorrow. If you do that every single week, imagine what could start to change. That was the third one.
Thank you for starting to clean up. I forgot to mention, we do have to clean up everything for the Anglican Church who's coming in at 3:45. So if you wouldn't mind packing up the tables and we'll start throwing chairs back. Thanks.